Dhamma Boots. Lots of things have changed. Most notably, they came in and cleaned all the carpets, and I figured that was a good time as any to rearrange stuff and make sure that stuff is where it's supposed to be. So, you'll notice that I'm in the same spot that I usually am, but the camera is always going to be at a different angle from now on. So, it'll be right there. Should be good to go, I think. Okay, other things that have changed, and I will get into this, fairly early on. So the simple fact of the matter is, today is Thursday, the 22nd of August, and we're doing service, and it's my birthday. So, I figured today was as good a day as any to call myself out, right? Because that's kind of what we do, non-self, all that jazz. And how we're going to do that is through right speech, which is the next on the Eightfold Noble Path. So, what we're going to start off with, what we're going to do today is I'm going to do the Dhamma reading, and then I'm going to tell you a little story about something else that has changed recently, as in within the last 2 months. So, we'll start off with the Dhamma reading, and then it's story time. We were talking about right speech, and both of these passages come from the Anguttara Nikaya. And I'm having trouble speaking today, it's terrible. Right, yeah, I know. This is right speech day, and I'm having trouble talking. But facts are facts, so. From Anguttara Nikaya 5. Monks, a statement endowed with 5 factors is well spoken, not ill spoken. It is blameless and unfaulted by the wise. Which 5? It is spoken at the right time. It is spoken in truth. It is spoken affectionately. And here, don't take that as like affection as in like physical affection or as in like normal mundane affection. This is more in terms of affection as generosity, affection as kindness. It is spoken beneficially. It is spoken with a mind of goodwill. And from 10, same book. And how is one made pure in 4 ways by verbal action, aka speech? There is a case where a certain person, abandoning false speech, abstains from false speech. When he has been called to a town meeting, a group meeting, a gathering of his relatives, his guild, or of the royalty, if he is asked as a witness, "Come and tell, good man, what you know." If he doesn't know, he says, "I don't know." If he does know, he says, "I know." If he hasn't seen, he says, "I haven't seen." If he has seen, he says, "I have seen." Thus, he doesn't consciously tell a lie for his own sake, for the sake of another, or for the sake of any reward. Abandoning false speech, he abstains from false speech. He speaks the truth, holds to the truth, is firm, reliable, no deceiver of the world. Abandoning divisive speech, he abstains from divisive speech. What he has heard here, he does not tell there to break those people apart from these people here. What he has heard there, he does not tell here to break these people apart from those people there. Thus reconciling those who have broken apart or cementing those who are united. He loves concord, delights in concord, enjoys concord, speaks things that create concord, right? Abandoning abusive speech, he abstains from abusive speech. He speaks words that are soothing to the ear, that are affectionate, that go to the heart, that are polite, appealing, and pleasing to people at large. Abandoning idle chatter, he abstains from idle chatter. He speaks in season, speaks what is factual, what is in accordance with the goal, the Dhamma, and the Vinaya. He speaks words worth treasuring, seasonable, reasonable, circumscribed, connected with the goal. This is how one is made pure in 4 ways by verbal action. So, because the Buddha is pretty clear in what right speech is and what it isn't, we're just going to give that a cursory look. And then I'm going to throw out the real world example that I talked about earlier, my own example. And yes, I'm about to just call myself out and open myself up to criticism. And I would actually like you guys to really give some good, deep thought, some real good, hard consideration, right? Using right view, using right intention, using all of the rest of the Buddha's path. Let's take a look at my example and figure out what I did wrong. Because I'm not going to say that I'm perfect, because I'm not. I goof up just as much as anybody. And this is one where I think I probably messed up. And I'd like to make sure that you guys are seeing it too, and that we as a community can learn from when teachers fail, right? When chaplains aren't necessarily perfect. So, I want you to look at the factors that the Buddha laid out and compare them as we go through this to the situation I'm about to describe. Help a fellow Dhamma Buddha out. Help me figure out what I did wrong. Help me figure out what I need to do better in terms of right speech, right? Because the Buddha laid his criteria out. I mean, they're right there. It's not hard to figure out exactly what constitutes right speech, right? Something is spoken at the right time. It's spoken in truth. It's spoken affectionately. It's spoken beneficially. It's spoken with a mind of goodwill. It abandons false speech, right? It's not false, it's not divisive, it's not abusive, and it's not idle chatter. That's what makes right speech right speech. That's what makes speech right. So, my background story is this, and some of you have probably heard part of this. I don't think I've fully come out and explained exactly what happened to anybody before this. So this is kind of me airing my own failures and saying, I need to do better. So, the background behind this goes like this. On 2 separate occasions, that is twice, my Sorta current unit forced me to break the law. Yeah, they were minor violations, sure, right? Super minor, but they were still violations. They were still violations of public law. And after I objected, they refused to change course. They were, and I quote, good with it. Keep that in mind especially. They also let leaders in the unit trash public law and trounce all over Army regulations, which have the force of law in most cases. I saw zero chance of them changing after the second incident. So I set out from my limited vantage point, and I will admit I don't see things perfectly all the time. I'm not always practicing right view, even though I should be. So from my vantage point and within my lane, I chose to make sure that new members of the unit were properly prepared for this environment. Aha, already, you people should know where I'm going with this, right? So how I went about this is probably where I failed the hardest. Instead of talking up and praising the unit, which I found to be a morally unconscionable act, I was not going to do that. I could not do that. I could not justify saying, hey, this is a great unit to be a part of. It's awesome. You totally are going to have an awesome time here. Because as the Lego movie says, everything is awesome, right? It's not. It's not. And if I'm being really good and honest about what is truth, that ain't truth. It's not awesome. I can't call it awesome when it's not. Right? So, I chose to give new soldiers, new members of the team, a heads up. The intention behind this was right. I'm not gonna sit there and say that I had the wrong intention, because I didn't. As far as I know. right? I was practicing right intention with this. It came out of a place of compassion, and it came out of a place of sincere goodwill. I wanted to make the unit a better place. I wanted to make the unit good. I wanted to improve the unit, to help them renounce bad qualities and replace them with good ones, right? So, after all, you can't fix a problem that goes unacknowledged and is swept under the rug. If you go to the doctor with a ruptured spleen and you hobble in and say, "Hey doc, everything's fine, it's all good," your doctor's gonna come back at you, looking right at you and say, have a nice funeral, right? Because it's clearly, obviously not fine. It's not good, right? So you have to acknowledge where things are. And when you say things, you have to be truthful in what you say. That's part of right speech, right? So I was trying to prep the battlefield, so my new teammates would know what to expect and could manage their own expectations internally. And what I told them wasn't always bad. In fact, most of the time it was actually pretty good, because most of the time I varied it based on what level they were going to. If they were going to platoon so-and-so in company so-and-so, right? I would say, oh, okay, you've got so-and-so platoon leader, they've been on so for this amount of time, they're new, maybe, or whatever the case was. Give them a little time to adjust. They'll start working it. They'll start figuring stuff out. It'll be good. It'll be okay, right? Or, oh, company this just got a new commander and first sergeant. They're coming in. They have the right heart. They're gonna try. They're gonna try and do what they can, right? But when it came to upper level leaders who had forced me to break the law, and then I had to sit there and watch as senior leaders in the battalion just walked right over the regulations, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be like, hey, these guys are great, they're just getting, they're just getting their feet under. No, they weren't. I had to be honest. I had to sit there and say, you're coming into a unit that has some issues. With the right attention and the right effort, we can make those better. We can fix them. We can get these issues to be better. Apparently that wasn't positive enough, or some nonsense. So, I went into those going in and letting the new people know, when they were going to a better part of the unit, a more better in terms of more moral and ethical in how they operated. I told them so. When they were going to a portion of the unit which was not as good as the rest, I told them that too, right? This is me following the Buddha's right speech, right? When he says, when a person is called to a town council or a town meeting, right, and asked what he knows. If he knows, he said he knows. He says he knows. If he doesn't know, he says he doesn't know. If he sees, he says he sees. If he doesn't see, he says he doesn't see. You don't sit there and say, hey, this is great, everything's awesome, if it's not. If you don't see that, if you don't know that. So that was what I was doing. Obviously, I also let them know what kinds of things I do, how I operate, some of the theological underpinnings behind some of the unique stuff that I do, which is not always exactly the way the Army does things, or the way the Army wants me to do things. It's coming out of a place of faith. What can I say? I'm not going to trash my faith just so that some leader somewhere can feel something. So new teammates learn that I value doing things a better way, rather than holding hard to the old, outdated, outmoded methods that they're used to, right? And especially with senior leaders, this is problematic, because senior leaders, more than anybody else, want to hold to the way things were. That's a fact. That's a fact based on observation, right? Especially in that unit. And I'm not as stuck in the Army way as some would like. We saw that in the OG salute. That was a thing that got me in trouble. Fact. Why did I do it? Because the OG salute, the Dama boot salute, is way more respectful than the traditional salute. If you're doing something a better way, how can that possibly be wrong? Well, it is, because it doesn't match up with the standards. It doesn't match up with tradition. It doesn't match up with the way things always have been. Well, okay, so you do them the better way, or at least I do. Why? Because as we found out in the Kalama Sutta, doing something skillfully, that is, doing something by the best possible method, is the only way that something is moral. If you have the choice between doing something the way it's always been done and doing something a better way, you take the better way, because that's the moral course of action. So this was me following my faith, and senior leaders didn't particularly care for that too much. And I was wrong. I was. I shouldn't have done that, right? I should have just accepted that the Army way is the way, and rolled on, shut up, and sat down. I failed at that. So ultimately, I cut the long story short. This got me removed from the unit, sort of. I'm still technically connected with them while I'm waiting a new posting, but I'm not part of it. So, yeah. That was my punishment for doing things a different way, for following what I thought was right speech. I got punished for it, and I accept that, right? Because according to them, I did wrong. According to me, I thought I was doing right. I thought I was telling them what I should tell them. I thought I thought being honest was an important trait for a chaplain to have. And I thought doing things a better way, which I just described, was theologically the sound way, the moral way. So that's what I did. I'm being 100% honest when I say I failed. I shouldn't have done that. Because it got me punished. Because it caused problems for a lot of people. And I shouldn't have done that. Right? So they saw it as undermining the command and got angry about it. They took my candor and my adaptation as working against them. Which brings us to the question. You remember those qualities that I talked about for right speech? Well, one of those is for sure divisive speech, isn't it? Was I being divisive? They sure thought so. So let's look at this. Let's look at my little story there in light of right speech as outlined by the Buddha. Let's look at each of the criteria we listed in the Dhamma reading. So, was what I did, was my speech spoken at the right time? Was it spoken in truth? Was it spoken affectionately? Was it spoken beneficially? Was it spoken with a mind of goodwill? Was it false? Was it divisive? Was it abusive? Was it idle chatter? And that's what I want you to answer for me, Dharma Boots. By all means, if I was wrong, and since I got punished for it, I clearly was wrong, let me know where I failed. Use those criteria. Use what the Buddha taught and say, this is what you did wrong. This is where you failed. I need to know that. Because I don't want to do that again. I don't want people to have problems because of me. I don't want people to be stuck in a bad situation because of me. I genuinely want to do better. I can't do better if I'm not going to acknowledge that I failed, which I did. So, this one is up to you, Dumbo Boots. Let me know what I did in the comments. I'm counting on you.